The story doesn't begin with love. It begins with a red plastic cup, a hallway mirror, and a laugh that didn't belong to me. The music was too loud, and the hallway smelled like peach vodka and burnt hair straightener. I wasn't supposed to be there. Not yet, at least. But I'd left work early to surprise her, because I thought that's what people in love did. She told me it was a small office party, just some drinks after work, nothing fancy. I wasn't invited. I wasn't supposed to be jealous, and I wasn't until I saw her. No, scratch that. Until I saw what she looked like when she thought I wasn't watching. I was still standing by the entrance, taking in the scene. College-style chaos in a house way too clean for this crowd. Then I caught a glimpse of her in the hallway mirror. She was laughing, not the polite kind, not the "he's just a friend" kind. The kind of laugh that makes your stomach twist. And beside her, a guy I didn't recognize, arms toned, shirt unbuttoned just enough, confidence leaking off him like cologne. He was touching her waist. She didn't move his hand. She whispered something in his ear. He laughed. She leaned in closer. I didn't even blink. I turned around, walked back out the door, and drove home. No scene, no shouting, no texts. By morning, she was sitting at the kitchen table, shaking, mascara halfway down her cheeks, begging me to speak. But the truth is, I still hadn't figured out how. She looked like a ghost at that table. Her eyes were bloodshot, not from lack of sleep, but from crying. The kind of crying you do when you realize something irreversible has happened. Her hands were wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from, and her knee kept bouncing under the table like her body needed to move, but her guilt was holding it down. I didn't say anything when I walked into the kitchen, just grabbed a glass of water, stood by the sink and waited. I wasn't trying to intimidate her. Honestly, I didn't have the energy. I just wanted to see what she would say first, because whatever came out of her mouth in that moment would be the foundation of everything that came next. I didn't mean for you to see that, she whispered, eyes fixed on the steam rising from her cup. Wrong answer. Not. It's not what you think. Not. Let me explain. Not even. I made a mistake, I didn't mean for you to see it. I turned to leave the kitchen. Lol, please, she said, standing so fast the chair screeched against the tile. It wasn't what it looked like. I was drinking. He kissed me first. I didn't kiss back, I swear. I laughed. I actually laughed because I wasn't even in the room and I still knew she was lying. I saw the way you touched him, I said quietly, still facing the hallway. You touched him like you forgot I existed. There was silence. She didn't deny it. And that's when she made the next mistake. It didn't mean anything. I needed to feel something. You've been so distant lately, like you don't even care about us. The classic flip. Suddenly, I was the one who caused her to kiss a stranger in a hallway at a party. Oh, so you were lonely? I asked, turning back to her. That's your excuse? I don't make you feel alive, so you leaned into a guy you just met. He's not just someone I met, she said before stopping herself, hand over her mouth. I stared at her slowly, quietly, like the gears in my brain were clicking into place. Not just someone she met, not a stranger. How long? I asked, my voice flat. How long have you been seeing him? I wasn't seeing him. How long? Her eyes filled with tears again, real ones this time, not performative, not rehearsed. And then she said it. 3 months. 3 months. 90 days of lies, of goodnight kisses laced with guilt, of texts she hid, phone calls she took in the bathroom, last-minute errands that lasted hours. I felt like someone had peeled open my chest and poured cold cement into my lungs. She kept talking, something about how it didn't mean anything, how she thought we were drifting apart, how she didn't know how to fix us, so she tried to distract herself. The words blurred together like static on a dead channel. But I heard one thing clearly. I ended it with him last week. I blinked. Oh, so last night was what? A goodbye party? That's when she started crying again. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Not out of anger, just instinct. Because in that moment I realized I didn't know the woman in front of me anymore. I didn't hate her. I didn't want revenge. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I couldn't be the man who just gets over it. The hours after her confession were some of the strangest of my life. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel heartbroken in the traditional sense. It was more like being underwater, like the weight of everything she said was pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. But not quite enough to drown. I wandered around the house in a daze, touching things that used to feel like us. The framed photo from our second anniversary trip to Savannah. The ceramic mug we both reached for every morning. The note she once left in my sock drawer that said, "You make life soft." None of it felt real anymore. It felt like props from a set that had already been struck. Around noon, I told her I needed space. I didn't pack a bag, didn't slam the door. I just left. Got in my car and started driving without a destination. I ended up at this coffee place we used to go to when we were dating. Back before brunch became a battlefield of passive-aggressive silence. I sat at a corner table and stared at a wall for an hour, not even touching the drink. Think I ordered. And then on impulse, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called Jonah. Jonah's my cousin, more like a brother, really, and the only person who's always known when I was lying about being fine. I hadn't talked to him in months, not for any reason other than life swallowing us up. When he picked up, he said, "Hey man," like nothing had changed. And I just broke. I told him everything, every detail, the party, the mirror, the hallway, her confession. And when I got to the part where she said she ended it with the guy a week ago, Jonah went silent. Which, if you knew Jonah, would have sent alarm bells ringing instantly. "What?" I asked. "Just say it." He exhaled. "Lel, I'm sorry, man, but she didn't end it." My stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" He paused again like he was debating whether to tell me something he shouldn't. And then he did. One of my buddies, Nate, he works security at that house, the one the party was at. He runs cameras during events, private security gigs. He called me this morning. Didn't know it was your wife, just said, "Hey, I think I saw someone your cousin knows acting real close with a guy who isn't her husband." Said she left with him. I felt like the floor tilted beneath me. She left with him. I asked, my voice barely registering as mine. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything until I knew more. But now that you've told me everything, I ended the call and stared out the windshield. The image of her sitting at our kitchen table this morning, crying, begging, claiming it was over, twisted into something grotesque. She lied again. Not even 12 hours after the eye ended its speech, she walked out of that party with him. I drove back home with a mind that felt like a volcano beneath calm water. She was in the living room, blanket over her lap, pretending to watch some baking show we both used to love. I stood in the doorway. "You left with him." She looked up, startled. "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie, not again. Just please don't." Her eyes welled up instantly, like she'd been waiting for this moment to collapse again. I didn't plan to. He offered me a ride. I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. Did you go to his place? She didn't answer. That silence was my answer, and that's when something in me hardened. Not cruelly, not violently, just finally. I'm not angry, I said, but we're done pretending this can be fixed. She didn't cry this time. She just sat there staring down at her lap like she knew the ending had already been written. I didn't slam the door. I didn't pack a dramatic suitcase. I didn't even ask her to leave. I simply opened my laptop and began looking at short-term rentals. My silence scared her more than anything I could have shouted. She hovered near the hallway like a ghost trapped between floors, watching as I typed without looking up. Every so often she tried to speak, but the words always crumbled before they left her lips. I think deep down she knew the damage wasn't just done. It was complete. I found a rental across town, small, furnished, temporary. I didn't need space to breathe. I needed space to stop suffocating. When I returned to the bedroom to grab a few things, she followed me in. "Lel, please," she said, her voice breaking in ways I'd never heard before. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. He wasn't supposed to mean anything. I got lost. I didn't think you still cared. That line hit me harder than anything else. I didn't think you still cared. As if the quiet way I loved her, the morning coffee, the hand on her back while she drifted off to sleep, the way I always made sure she had a glass of water on her nightstand somehow translated into indifference, as if care only counts when it's loud, flashy, performative. I zipped up my bag slowly. That's the thing, Brenna. I did care, but I was tired of talking into silence, of watching you check out of our life day by day and acting like I was imagining it. She started crying again. I ended it. I really did. That night wasn't. You ended it? I asked. Before or after you left with him? She froze. That half-second pause was the final nail. I walked out of the room. But it didn't stop there. A few hours after I moved into the rental, I got a text from an unknown number. "Lel, I don't know if you know who I am. My name's Tristan. I just thought you deserved to hear it from me." My stomach dropped. I knew he was the man from the party, the one whose hand was on her waist like it had been there 1,000 times before. He sent another message. "She told me you were separated, that you had one foot out the door, that you didn't care. I didn't know she was lying until I saw your face at that party. I saw the look in your eyes when you left. I couldn't sleep after that. I didn't mean to be part of this." I stared at the screen, nauseated. She didn't just cheat. She rewrote our story for him, erased me from the picture, painted herself the victim of some loveless marriage, so she could play out a fantasy without the guilt. He texted again. "I ended it for real. I blocked her. I'm sorry, man. I should have known." I didn't reply. What was there to say? I wasn't going to thank him for handing me shards of a mirror he helped break. The next morning, Brenna called. I ignored it. She called again, then texted. "Please, just hear me out. I didn't mean to drag him into this. I told him lies because I didn't know how to tell myself the truth. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but please let me talk to you." I sat with my phone in my hand for a long time. Not because I was tempted, but because I realized something. She had only started telling the truth once every lie had already collapsed. I didn't want to meet her. Every part of me told me not to. But curiosity is cruel. It doesn't whisper claws. And something in me needed to hear her say it, not through texts or voicemails, not with mascara streaks and breathless apologies, but calmly, soberly, without theatrics. So I agreed to meet her. Neutral ground. A quiet little cafe on Jefferson Street that used to be our Sunday morning ritual spot, back when life felt simpler and Eggs Benedict could fix almost anything. When I got there, she was already seated. She looked smaller, not physically, just reduced, as if she'd deflated under the weight of her own decisions. She didn't smile. She didn't reach for my hand. Good. At least she'd finally read the room. We ordered. I didn't care what. I barely tasted it anyway. There was a silence between us that had nothing to do with awkwardness. It was history, tension, resentment, all crashing into the same space. "I know I don't deserve this," she started, "but thank you for coming." I didn't respond. She nodded, accepting that. Then she said it. "I've been seeing him for almost 6 months, not 3. I blinked, not because I was surprised, but because even now, even here, she'd originally tried to soften the blow. She'd cut it in half like the length of time would somehow make it easier to swallow. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she continued. "I met him at a client pitch. He was charming. He listened. He remembered things I said, and it felt good being seen. I felt invisible at home. Lel, I didn't know how to talk to you without feeling like I was bothering you." I could feel the sting in her words, even though I didn't flinch because on some level I knew she was telling the truth. I had been withdrawn. I had stopped asking questions. But not because I stopped caring. It was because every time I reached out, she pulled away, and I got tired of chasing someone who always had one foot outside the door. "So you told him we were separated?" I asked, finally looking her in the eyes. Her lips trembled. "Yes. Did you believe that, or did you just want to?" She didn't answer, which told me everything. I told myself, she whispered, that it wasn't really cheating if we were already broken. "But we weren't broken," I said. "You just decided we were and then made it true." That silence came again, only now it was heavier. She wiped a tear but didn't sob. No drama, just reality sinking in. "I ended it after the party," she said. "After I saw your face. After I realized what I'd done." "You ended it," I repeated. "After you got caught," she nodded. "No excuses this time." We sat there for a while, sipping coffee that had long gone cold. "Do you want a divorce?" she asked quietly, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away because I wasn't sure. Not yet. I wasn't holding on out of hope, just trying to untangle whether there was anything left worth salvaging. "I don't know," I said finally, "but I know I can't come back home right now. I need to feel like I exist again, like I'm not just the background character in your story." She didn't fight it. She just nodded. And in that moment, I saw the woman I married. Not the one who lied, not the one who reached for another man in the dark, but the one who used to hold my hand under tables and leave post-it notes on the bathroom mirror. But she was buried, and I didn't know if I had the strength to go digging. 2 weeks passed. I didn't go back. She didn't call again. Not once. Maybe she was giving me space. Or maybe she knew calling would only confirm the silence between us was permanent. Either way, I needed the distance. I needed to sit with myself and listen to the thoughts I'd spent years muting for the sake of a version of marriage that didn't exist anymore. But there was still one thing I hadn't done: pick up the rest of my stuff. I'd only taken essentials when I moved into the rental, just enough to get by, assuming I'd either come back or finalize things. But as the days passed, I started to realize that those non-essentials were really just reminders of who I used to be before I stopped recognizing myself. So I went back, not to talk, just to gather. She wasn't home. Good. I didn't want to navigate another teary-eyed apology or, "Do you want to stay for coffee?" sort of trap. I parked in the driveway like a stranger, unlocked the door like a thief. Everything was too quiet, the kind of quiet that felt artificial, like she'd cleaned in a panic just in case I showed up. I walked past the living room, past the kitchen, and down to the basement where we kept all the old storage boxes, things we hadn't looked at in years. Photo albums, keepsakes, college junk we never threw out. I was only down there to grab my guitar, a few binders of my old writing, and maybe a couple shirts I still cared about. But then I saw it. A plain gray shoebox, unmarked, shoved behind a stack of winter coats in the far corner. It wasn't mine. I knew every box I'd ever packed. This one had duct tape sealing the edges and a strip of red string wrapped around it, like it had once been hastily tied and forgotten. I should have left it, but I didn't. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Some folded with care, others hastily crumpled like she'd tried to toss them but couldn't quite go through with it. They weren't from Tristan, that much was clear. These were older, yellowed edges, some dated as far back as 2 years ago, all from another man. The handwriting changed over time, sloppier than careful, then emotionally charged, romantic, mentions of secret meetups of hotels during work trips, of love, actual love. My head spun. I sat down on the cold floor, the cement biting through my jeans, and read letter after letter. The name Cameron appeared frequently. Client, apparently, someone she'd met years ago. It hadn't just been emotional. There were dates, encounters, mentions of last night, of me always framed as the villain, the boring, cold, unambitious husband she was stuck with. Suddenly, Tristan wasn't the betrayal. He was the symptom. The disease had been there longer than I ever imagined. I put the letters back, closed the box slowly, and sat in silence. Everything made sense now. The growing distance, the way she picked fights over nothing, the way she always had something to do. I thought the affair with Tristan had cracked the surface, but the surface had been rotting all along. When I finally stood up, I didn't take the guitar. I didn't grab the shirts. I walked out empty-handed, my keys clenched so tightly in my fist I left marks on my skin. Outside, the sky was gray. It hadn't started raining yet, but the weight of the air told me it would. And for the first time in weeks, I hoped it would. I needed something to break. I didn't sleep the night I found the letters. I laid on the cheap mattress in the rental, the ceiling fan whirring like a ticking bomb overhead, reading and rereading those pages in my mind until the words burned. I wasn't just betrayed. I'd been living in a lie that had layers. And somewhere in those layers was a version of Brenna I never even got to meet. The one who gave herself away to someone else while I was still tucking her in at night with a kiss on the forehead. The next morning I did something reckless. I searched for him. Cameron, the name from the letters, the name she'd never once mentioned to me in all our years together. I started with her LinkedIn, scanned through connections, clients, old coworkers. It didn't take long. One Cameron W., mid-40s marketing executive, lived just one town over. I recognized his smug face from a conference photo on Brenna's old phone background. I remember asking who he was. She said, "Just some client, arrogant but harmless." Harmless, right? I found his office address, drove there without thinking, and parked across the street like some amateur private investigator. I don't know what I expected. An apology? A fight? Maybe I just needed to see the kind of man she'd risked everything for twice. He came out around noon, alone, dressed too well for a Wednesday. He walked with the kind of self-importance that made my fists clench, but I waited. I wanted the moment to be mine. I crossed the street and stood in his path. "Cameron," I said. He paused, blinked at me. "Do I know you?" "I'm Lel, Brenna's husband." His face shifted, not to panic, to recognition, and then a slow, guilt-soaked inhale. "Look," he said, holding up a hand. "I haven't spoken to her in over a year. If she didn't tell you about me, that's not on me." "She didn't," I said, voice steady. "But I found the letters that shut him up." He looked around like maybe we were being watched, then motioned toward a bench near the building. We sat strangers, but with a twisted history tangled between us. It wasn't supposed to happen. He said it started during a business trip. Drinks turned into something else. She said things weren't good between you. She cried the first time. Said she didn't know how to leave you. My jaw tightened. She said that a lot, apparently. She told me she ended it because she was going to try to fix things with you. I believed her. But then she texted a few months later and it started again. I asked her if she was really done with you. She said it was complicated. That word complicated, the same one she used when she stopped wearing her wedding ring because it's uncomfortable. When she accidentally missed our anniversary dinner because of a complicated work deadline, Cameron leaned forward. "I'm not proud of what happened, but she never made it sound like you were in the picture. At least, not in the way I should have respected. I know that doesn't make it better." "No," I said, "it doesn't. But at least now I know I wasn't just imagining the distance." She'd already left. She just hadn't told me. I stood up. "For what it's worth," he added, "I think you deserved better." I didn't respond. I just walked back to my car, heart pounding, stomach hollow. I come looking for closure, but all I got was confirmation. And somehow that was worse. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't want to give her time to prepare a speech or rehearse a face. I just showed up. It was early evening. The sun was low enough to spill amber light across the front steps. The same steps we used to sit on with coffee in hand and talk about everything that didn't matter. That version of us was long gone. But I owed it to both of us to end this without a slam door or a silent fade out. She opened the door, startled but not surprised. Maybe she'd been waiting for this. "I won't stay long," I said, calm and clear. She stepped aside. I walked in like a guest, not a husband. There was a box on the coffee table. My old journals, the hoodie I thought I'd lost, a framed photo of us from New Orleans, cracked in the corner but still standing. "I didn't know if you wanted them," she said quietly. I nodded. "Thanks." Then I sat down, not because I needed to talk, but because I needed her to hear me. I'm not here to yell or pick apart the past. I've done that in my head enough times to write a novel. I'm here because I need to say something, and I need you to actually listen. Not defend, not explain. Just listen. She sat, folded her hands in her lap, and nodded once. I loved you, and I think some part of me still does, but not the way I used to. Not with hope, not with a future in mind. I love the person I thought you were. The woman who danced in our kitchen barefoot. The woman who left notes in my lunch bag just to say, "You got this." But somewhere along the way, that version of you stopped showing up, and I kept trying to carry the weight for both of us. She looked down, a tear sliding down her cheek, but I didn't stop. I know I wasn't perfect. I pulled away too. I stopped asking questions because I got tired of hearing half answers. But I didn't deserve to be rewritten. I didn't deserve to become your excuse for doing what you wanted, she whispered. I know. I believe you're sorry, I said. But that doesn't mean I owe you another chance. Forgiveness isn't permission to stay. It's permission to go. And with that, I stood. She followed me to the door, but didn't try to stop me. As I stepped outside, I turned back one last time. Take care of yourself, Brenna. I hope you figure out who you are when no one else is watching. She nodded through tears. I walked to my car and drove off. No rear-view glances, no parting music swelling in the background. Just peace. Quiet, honest peace. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Free. Thank you for watching this journey on Reddit Confessions. If you've made it this far, I want to hear from you.